going on, everybody? My name is Darian Kelly, and I am the founder of the Jersey Sports Network. So the Jersey Sports Network is a media hub that encompasses everything sports business, from name, image, and likeness, sports betting, to sports technology, anything sports business. The Jersey is a hub for content. Now, if you're new to the page and you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. A little bit of housekeeping, a little bit about myself. I have an extreme passion for sports as well as sports business. I'm a writer for the Business of College Sports, in which I write a lot about name, image, and likeness. And for those who don't know what name, image, and likeness is, it's a rule that allows for athletes at the high school and even at the college level to monetize their name, image, and likeness. So college athletes as well as high school athletes in certain states can take part in brand deals and partnerships with different companies and really build their personal brand through these name, image, and likeness deals. And so today what I wanted to discuss is women's college basketball, right? Women's college basketball right now is at a zenith, right? Everybody is watching it. I believe there was a YouTube reel. It was a reel that was sent by Yahoo that was posted, I believe, on IG, in which a reporter was asking just a random guy off of the street, can you name any of the players that are in the men's March Madness tournament? And to most of the audience surprise, the guy that was being interviewed couldn't really name anyone from the men's side, but he was more familiar with the women's players on within the March Madness tournament. And so this past weekend we had, I believe, the first round as well as the second round of games. And there were three particular incidents that really faced a lot of criticism, particularly on Twitter. So in one of the games we had Iowa's superstar Caitlin Clark, who is the number one college athlete when it comes to name, image, and likeness deals. She was particularly arguing with a ref during the break and play, to which, people were reacting on Twitter and just saying, in some instances that, Caitlin, or in some cases, that would have been a technical foul to really speak aggressively to a referee. And even an Ohio State women's basketball player, Cody McMahon, actually responded to the actual video on Twitter and said, if that would have been me, it would have been a technical foul, would have been out of the game. And so there was a second incident that took place with Stanford women's basketball player Cameron Brink, who plays center, who was a well-decorated player and also doing extremely well in the name, image, and likeness space herself, with deals with New Balance as well as Buick. And she had fouled an opposing player on the Iowa State side of things during the game. And when she had fouled out, she exited the game and what appeared to look at the ref that was at the scores table and said, F you. That's what was, essentially modeled. That's what people on Twitter were saying. And then the third and final incident involved Angel Reese of LSU, and into which they played Middle Tennessee State yesterday. And one of their key players, the player's name was Anastasia Boldriva, and she had fouled out the game. And Angel was seen waving to the crowd, basically, telling her goodbye. And so these three particular incidences, received a lot of criticism on Twitter, to which I was a little taken aback in the sense that, the women's game right now is so much money flowing through the women's game, right? For example, Caitlin Clark, who plays for Iowa, it was a spike in ticket sales, right? They sold 125,000 tickets last year. This season, they sold over 300,000 tickets. Caitlin Clark was a part of one of the most viewed basketball games, particularly on the Fox Sports network. It actually, on average, generated more viewers than an NBA game. You have Angel Reese, who her and LSU participated in the SEC championship that garnered a lot of viewers, broke records as far as viewership, as well as in the national championship game last year, particularly where LSU faced Iowa. So they broke viewership records. The ticket sales are booming, but yet there's a lot of criticism around how women college basketball players should play the game. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because the sport of basketball as a whole is a very unique sport. In my opinion, it controls culture. It's very different from, a football or, an individual sport like a gymnastics or wrestling, right? Basketball, you can see the athletes on TV. They're very visible. When they make certain plays, they give off certain reactions. And depending upon, I guess, who you are, and how you critique the game or how you think the game should be played, these women are always faced with a lot of criticism. Similar to Angel Reese last year, there were, things said about her being too hood or, being too ghetto or so many different negative things. And to which I think that there shouldn't be any criticism, because with basketball, it is a sport of expression. And I believe that especially, women's college basketball, the game in itself, it has grown, since its early days, and it's getting so much attention. And I think that, the way in which the game was played yesteryear compared to today, it's a testament to how far we've grown. But NIL has changed things dramatically. You look at like Angel Reese, who played, like I said, last year in the most watched women's basketball game of all time. The national championship last year against Iowa generated 9.9 million views. And when you think of a basketball game, it's more than just the game. It's the marketing, it's the advertising. So many eyes are on the specific product and brands are attracted to it. And I think that the masses is not used to, you have some people who are against NIL, and then you have some people who are against the fact that players are not only receiving NIL, but they're not playing the game a certain way that it should be played, quote unquote, which I just think that it's not fair in a sense. And I think that we should be enjoying this time. We should be enjoying, where the game is gone. I think back to when I was much younger, when I was in middle school, I'm like an OG women's college basketball fan, because I grew up in Baltimore. And I would always hear about, I remember when the Lady Terps, the University of Maryland, won a national title. We're talking Marissa Coleman, Christy Tolliver, the ACC as a whole, not just Maryland Lady Terps, but you had Elena Beard at Duke, you had Ivy Latta at University of North Carolina, you had Diana Taurasi at UConn in the Big East, you had Candace Parker at Tennessee during that. I was in middle school. I'm showing my age. But I was in middle school 06, 07, 08. And so those to me were the glory days in my estimate of what women's college basketball was. But what's so unique is that even though I was like a fan of Candace Parker and I was a fan of how Diana Taurasi at UConn played with just so much swagger, I didn't really know what these players were like off the court. And because we live in a social media age, and because NIL and these players can make money, it's changing how we view the game, and it's making the masses more critical of it. And just to put it in a perspective, Sports Media Pro, I'll drop the article link in the description, but Sports Media Pro compiled a list of 100 athletes, and out of those 100 athletes, 52% of them were female athletes, as far as the number of college athletes that have the most NIL deals. 52% of them were female athletes. And so as women's sports continues to evolve, and we look at how the networks see how they see women's sports as a whole, you look at ESPN that just locked in an 8-year deal over $600 million for the media rights of women's college basketball and softball, as well as volleyball. So women's sports is growing, but I think that the harsh critique around how women should play the game is just not necessary. I think that we should be enjoying this. We should be enjoying the growth of women's basketball. And I think that a lot of people can't handle the fact that the women's college basketball game is just more popular than the men's game. And I grew up in a time too, like, again, going back to those old days, I remember Juan Dixon and Steve Blake at University of Maryland. I remember Carmelo Anthony at Syracuse. I remember Kemba Walker at UConn. I love those men's college basketball teams and that competitiveness. But I think that we're living in a different time where brands are really leveraging the presence that, a Caitlin Clark has, When you see her doing State Farm commercials, the presence that an Angel Reese has, when, she signs to a Reebok and she's modeling and she's in these different, catalogs, I think we should be proud of how far the game has come, but also the amount of success these women athletes are generating because of NIL. And I see it as, a way in which they can expand their brands and continue to be more than just basketball players. I think that oftentimes when we look at basketball players, or just athletes in general, the masses think that they're just supposed to play sports, or that we're in the old days where you can just, we're in a new day where you can just be more than an athlete. And I think that NIL opens the doors for those opportunities. So as we move forward with the women's college basketball tournament, be, I guess, open and be, mindful as to how people are critiquing these women, but also on the flip side, appreciate the greatness, appreciate the progress, appreciate, how exciting it is to, everybody's around or everybody's talking about a women's college basketball game, because the game has come so far. So continue to tune in for more content, more videos like this moving forward. With that, please like the video, subscribe, and I'll be with you next time.